Hey y'all, Zack Smith here. I'm a realtor from Nashville, Tennessee, and today I'm going to walk you through 3 different properties to take a look at what not so great staging looks like, what not so great staging with a fantastic listing looks like, and what great staging and a great listing looks like. When you go to sell your home, you're going to have to make a decision about how much effort you want to put into preparing your home, what you want to do to get the home on the market, how you want to present it, how much work you want to put into presenting it, and just set up a plan to get what you want to get from the market. Most home sellers decide to fully stage a home and list it as pristinely as possible to get the most money possible for the house. However, not every homeowner makes that decision, and we're going to take advantage of some of the homeowners that have made that decision to not put as much effort into their home, to learn and to see very clearly the difference between an unstaged home on the market and one that's staged. I also have a middle ground home that doesn't have a whole lot of staging put into it, but it's very clean and the photography is great. It's very well listed and presented. This gives us a wide range of opportunities to take a look at the different choices that a homeowner can make. And if you're shopping for homes, this will also let you look past some of the issues that you see in a home to see what's underneath. Keep in mind, as we go through this again, that the homeowners and the agents representing these homes have made their decisions along the way for different reasons and different purposes, and that's totally fine. Again, we're just looking to understand what could be better, what could be worse, not whether it's right or wrong. With that, let's get into it. As we pull up the first picture, I'm going to explain how we're going to look at these homes. We're going to start with the home that is typically what I would call poorly listed and poorly staged. There's a very obvious reason as we get into this that this home is, like I said, a little poorly listed or poorly shown in the photography. But I still think it's going to be good thing to learn from and a good thing to see and recognize when you see a home, to be able to look past that on some listings if you're buying, or if you're going to sell your home, to really understand why certain things have to be done the way that they are. After that, we'll take a look at a home that is very well listed. The photography is great. It's very clean. It's very organized, but staging isn't really a word that I would use for the home. Finally, we're going to look at a staged home that looks very well set up for the market. It's a very nice home, but I want to show you something that's the sort of pristine upper limit of what staging and photography can do for a home. All right, so we're going to take a look at this first home. And from the outside, this first home, which is our unstaged and I would say poorly shown home, is actually pretty good looking from the front. First, when I was looking for homes that might fit this, that are maybe sitting on the market for a little bit longer or have some weird features to them, I saw this one and I clicked on it thinking, okay, why isn't that one showing up in my list? From the front of this home, it is very well done. The garden beds are tidy. You can see this large driveway, which we'll get to in a minute. But overall, this is pretty solid. You could have a little bit tidier mulch beds. You could add some flowers on the porch. But overall, this is a good home that looks good. There's really not much more to be said from that. Moving on to our second home. This home is, again, very well shown, but maybe could be a little bit better staged. So just here from the very front, you can see the home looks very nice and the shrubs are trimmed, the trees are clean, the yard's clean, everything's edged well, the lawn's cut. However, we can kind of see the first inklings of staging issues. You see this large letter on the door that generally you want to get rid of personal touches as best you can. You want someone to be able to imagine themselves owning the home as it is when they're looking through the house. You can also see more lettering in the garden over on the right of the picture, and you can see a hose setup that's sort of taking up a lot of space in the garden. All these things could be tucked away and hidden, at least for the listing, but probably for most of the time that you're showing the home. And finally, and again, remember this third house is a very nice home. We're going to look at what sort of the pristine garden and front door can look like. The only thing that's wrong with this picture, as you go through it, the trees are fantastically trimmed and shaped. The driveway is clean. The patio is clean. This walk-up is clean. The whole house is very well done. The only thing that I might say is it looks like they may have pressure washed this little walkway, but overall it's not quite as clean as I would like. I don't think that matters, and maybe in person it's not quite as noticeable as it would be in these pictures. From there, we'll go back to our unstaged home, and you'll see sort of the first problem that pops up. This home is a little bit of a mess. It looks like it's actively being used as a hair salon, and From my understanding of the home, it is being actively used as a hair salon. And, sometimes you got to keep doing what you're doing with the house. You can't stop and change your process. I'm sure the agent came in, took pictures quickly, and then got out of the way so that they didn't disrupt business operations through this hair salon. However, you can see that there's various products out on the counter. You can see that things aren't really arranged in any sort of neat way. There's a lot of personal items on the walls, and overall a lot of clutter. On top of that, the picture doesn't do a whole lot for the home. You can see the shadow from the chandelier creating almost a dirty look on the walls and the floor. You can see that the blurriness in the floor kind of makes a dirty and unclean feeling for the floor. These two combined factors, although again probably suiting the needs of the homeowner and the listing agent together to make a quick process to get photos up and on the listing, are ultimately not doing a lot of favors for the home. So we move on to the next home in the living room just after you walk into the front door. And you can see that this is very cleanly photographed. The lighting is even, well lit. Everything looks clean and tidy. However, we come back to, again, it's not staged so much. There's a lot going on in this living room. There's a lot of clutter, a lot of unique things. There's a lot of family specific pictures, portraits, and in those back cabinets that are built in, you can see a ton of knickknacks, pictures, collectibles, other things going on that, again, take a potential home buyer out of looking at a home that they could see themselves living in and into a tour of someone else's home. The final thing that I want to mention here that isn't super important for a lot of homes, but can come up is there's a pretty obvious dog bed by the fire. It might be a cat. I'm not sure. Ultimately, though, generally you want to take pets away from the visibility of a home if you can. A lot of home shoppers will be put off by the presence of a pet having been in the home. They're worried about smells, they're worried about hair, they're worried about damage, and ultimately they might still purchase the home and be perfectly fine. But if you don't have to bring it up, it might be worth taking a look at how you could hide some of those things for the showings. Moving to our well-staged home, your first thought may be, okay, this looks like a hotel room. This is just boring, plain, simple. No one would ever want to live there. And to a large extent, that's true. However, I think what's important to keep in mind is that when you are setting up a home for the market, you're not trying to make a home something that someone would want to live in. It's something that they could see themselves living in. And with that, you want to be broadly appealing. You want to get more buyers to come in and feel that sense of, I could live here. So with this hotel style setup, yes, it's impersonal and boring and bland, but it does draw in people to say, okay, I could see this space being reused for me. I could see myself using this space. I don't see someone else's fingerprint here. And that's what's important, as you see. On top of that, you'll see that you can see out the windows relatively clearly, but in a natural way. In the photograph, that's actually pretty tricky to do as you photograph a home. And it's important to make a home feel open and inviting in photographs. You can also see that everything's very clean. All of the lights are on throughout the home for the pictures. And although I've seen slightly better photography and slightly better staging, this is very pristinely done, very well done, and there's absolutely nothing technically wrong with it. Moving back to our unstaged home, we'll take a look at an office just for another point of, again, this is a used space, functional. I understand the way that it is. However, you see things out that are personal. It's hard to set yourself as a owner of this space. Additionally, similar to the dog bed, it looks like there is some pest control supplies down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the photo. Generally, you want to try to tuck those sort of things away so that people aren't looking for bugs while they're touring the home. It's same exact thing as the dog, that you don't want people looking for signs of a pet. However, again, you have your needs, you have your things. Somebody might open a closet and see it there. But when it's out in the office, right available and taking up space in this sort of lived-in space, it makes it feel like part of the daily life. Finally, I'll also mention the picture one more time. The picture is doing no favors to show off texture on the ceiling that kind of comes across as dirty or poorly kept, rather than as a cool textured ceiling that could be brought in as a design element of the home. You can also see a lot of dust and dirt back behind the shelf on the right and other different problems that come from just somebody taking a fast picture rather than actually setting up with a tripod and lighting and really setting the stage and the scene for their photo. Moving to the office of the Poorly staged but well presented home. Again, you can see the same theme of clean, tidy, organized. This is the bare minimum, I would really say, at least for your pictures. Even if you need the space to be more lived in throughout the times when you're showing the home, this is so important to have good pictures, have it at least be clean. This looks like it might be an older person or an older family moving out of the home. And I understand not wanting to try to stage everything and get everything packed away and move twice. But again, you want to think about, how can I take away some of my personal things? You could flip around that little cushion with the B on it and make it just dark and no B, no letter. Make it a little bit easier to see as your home as a home buyer rather than your home as a homeowner that you live in currently and are trying to sell. Last, I want to point out again this clutter and spacing in the room. There's a lot of furniture. You could try to tuck some of these things away. But again, I just want you to see, you can look past this and see a cool room underneath that looks very clean, very well kept. But it takes a little bit of an extra effort, and we want to try to avoid that if we can. Moving to the office of the well-staged home, you can see that they really didn't clean out this office before they decided to list the home. Now, I think there's a couple reasons for this. The first, these are beautiful built-ins and a pristine office that really shows the space and just sort of openness of the office. This feels very grand and feels like a very nice place to sit and work for a while. Although it kind of goes against the rule to have personal clutter where you have someone's library and art collection and models and figures and memorabilia, I think it does more to show off the built-ins because it's so pristinely made, so generic. There's not family photos that I can tell or see. If there are, they're hidden amongst everything else. Ultimately, this is a clean and tidy display of the built-ins being used and of the space being used that I think shows off maybe more than an empty room would. You could make an argument for removing some of the clutter, but when you see this, I think your first impression is, wow, that's a beautiful office with beautiful space for your books, for your memorabilia, a beautiful space to spend time working. And that's, I think, the correct conveyance of the office and the correct decision when listing the home. So the last point I want to make with this is there are times where you do leave some amount of clutter to show that the way a space can be used is advantageous to the new homeowner. And that's all right. But you need to decide that that's the decision that you're making rather than just not putting in the effort to clean up something or stage it or however you want to set up to present the home. Make sure that you're making an intentional decision when you choose to leave something a little bit more cluttered. Moving back to our poorly staged and shown home, you can see this bathroom. I think one of my recommendations is that you bring all of the design colors back to a neutral gray or beige that matches the home. The problems that you get are things like here. The green walls combined with the dark texture on the floor, combined with this sort of grainy photo that comes from doing these quick cell phone photos when you have to be quick in and out of a home, is leading to a sort of dirty feeling for a bathroom for me. I don't know if that's just me or if that's anybody else looking at it, but if it's at least one person, it's more than one person when you're showing these pictures online to hundreds of potential home buyers. So I think this is an argument for painting the walls back. I want you to take in mind that side. But even moving beyond that, you can still see cleaning chemicals out. You can see clutter going on. This feels like a both used, lived in, and also a little bit dirty bathroom, just the way that it's shown. It might be clean as it could ever be, but it just comes across feeling a little bit dirty because of the way that it's portrayed in the pictures and in the staging. For contrast, our home that is well shown, but maybe poorly staged, is very lived in. You can see that there's a towel hanging that's probably recently used. There's still a toothbrush on the counter. And although those things really should have been taken away, at least by the photographer while he's taking the pictures, this isn't a problem. It still feels clean. It still feels neat. I don't think that you look at this and you think, oh, that looks like a dirty or scary bathroom that I'm scared to walk into, or that you're concerned about having issues when you get to see the home. It looks clean. It looks lived in, but it looks clean. And that's all right. Again, making that decision that suits your needs and your lifestyle as you're trying to sell the home is all right. But you have to understand the decision that you're making. Finally, if we looked at a sort of lived-in bathroom in the pristinely listed home, I'll first explain that there's a little bit of a backsplash center art piece that looks a little odd. That's being used to hide the cameraman in the mirror. It's just a simple way to keep himself out. There's other ways to take yourself out of the photos when you're doing these pictures, but this is easy and it looks all right. Overall, it's very clean, very well organized. You can see that there's no toothbrush on the counter and the towels have been arranged to seem like they're staged. Someone may well be using this bathroom every day and we just can't see it. That's sort of your goal when you're setting up for pictures if you need to use the house and have it be functional while you're using it. I would have recommended taking those Brita pictures off and putting them down in the cabinets for the pictures, but that's about the only change that I would have made here on the pictures. Moving to the kitchen of the poorly staged home, one of my pet peeves is having dishes, whether they're at least clean here and not piled in the sink, but they're still drying on the counter for pictures. It always unsettles people when they think about using that kitchen afterwards. And it's so easy to just take that little pile and shove it in a corner of the dishes or take it into another room while you're taking the pictures. I do really wish that was here in this photo. But again, you can see how the active use in space combined with the quick pictures of somebody just walking through to take pictures quickly and get out of the way is creating a sense of dirtiness combined with clutter, combined with this is someone else's house, or someone else's space that they're using, however they're using it every day. It's not somewhere that you could see yourself taking over and living in. And again, we want to have that broad appeal. Looking at the kitchen on the well-presented but not staged home, you can see all of the things that this person uses every day are out on the counter. There's this old coffee pot on the left, there's a mixer over on the right, there's plateware, there's dishware, there's utensils, paper towels, everything's still on the counter. However, everything's clean, everything's tidy, and to some extent, you could see yourself walking into the picture and getting to work. You could make that coffee on the left, you could start baking, you could start mixing, you could start doing whatever you want. Because it's clean, well presented, well lit, and well shown, and relatively tidy, even though there's a lot going on and a lot of things out on the counters and in places that you would use and probably rather see, you can still see yourself stepping into the home. For an example here, if some of this clutter was off of the cabinets, you'd be able to see that lovely tile backsplash that they have. It looks very cool. It's very unique. It's like a subway tiling, but bigger and more spaced out. I think it's a very cool feature that would be worth showing off in the home, but is a little bit hidden by all this going on. I don't know if it's a dog toy over on the right door or what that is. I can't really see in the picture. However, that's again something that could easily be thrown away, not thrown away like in the trash, but thrown into a cabinet for the pictures while you're getting ready to show or take photos. But moving on to our well-staged kitchen, this one also has a little bit of personal touch still. If you look really closely on the little cabinet with the TV in it in the back, that's someone's hat collection around the TV. That's a weird thing to have around the TV, but it shows the built-in space being used for display purposes. It lets you feel the built-in space. There's fresh flowers on the counter. And overall, this is just a cool space. It's open, it's clean, it's easy to see yourself stepping into. It does feel a little bit cold and reserved and hard to imagine a person living here rather than, again, that hotel type feel. But overall, there's no buyer that's going to look at this and think, oh, I can't imagine myself owning that or setting up in that space or using that space. And that's the important thing that we're going for. Moving to our last set of pictures on the back exterior of the home. This is always a tricky spot for people to use pictures of. It's often impractical to take away some of your back patio furniture or your grill or something else while you're showing the home. It's one of the hardest places to get right in staging. Here, there's a lot going on. You can see these two different smokers or grills. You can see a lot of furniture. Ultimately, the trick here is to try to make everything seem coherent and sensibly spaced and show off that you can use the space in a way that you use it every day. But try to take away anything that distracts or doesn't fit with the use of the home that you see. If your furniture is maybe not quite up to the price point that you have for your home because you don't use the back patio space a lot, or maybe you've just had the same furniture forever and never felt the need to replace it, maybe try to tuck it away. And this one, I think, organizing into one space instead of what looks like two or three going on, and then maybe trying to tuck something into the shed on the right or tuck something behind the shed even, just to kind of hide it for at least the pictures, would probably be a good idea. But again, the space is being used and it's just a quick process to get the listing on the market. And ultimately, it's not the worst back patio or backyard setup that I've seen. To our clean and well-presented home, you can see, again, this common theme that they've had of tidiness, but a lot going on. You can see a lot of different spaces, and it's kind of tricky to understand what's going on with all those. There's more pictures that break those down. But Ultimately, it's very clean, very organized, and you could see yourself using the different yard spaces. You can see a garden that you could kind of step into. You can see this back patio away from the house, what looks like to be a little koi pond in the middle. There's a lot of spaces that you could use, enjoy, and see yourself really taking advantage of around the home. But it's not necessarily well staged, as in there's a lot of personal things, a lot of personal details going on with the home. But everything's clean, tidy, well photographed, well presented. Finally, with our well-staged, well-photographed home, the back patio shot here is actually one of the worst shots of the home, in my opinion, for the staging. There's two reasons for that. First, up in the rafters, you can see some amount of dirtiness, grime, insect life, nests, whatever's going on. Those things happen, especially at a home that seems relatively empty of furniture through the rest of the pictures. I don't know if the homeowner is still living in it every day, or if they are moving out in the process, if they don't spend a lot of time there, if they don't spend a lot of time outside. Ultimately, though, things happen, things pile up. But at a home at the price point that this one's at, I would have liked to see those cleaned out and ready to show for the pictures. At the very least, try to get that main nest over on the left out of the way. Additionally, and similar to the dog thing or to the bug cleaning thing, it looks like there's a cigar ashtray on the patio table there. You always want to hide any evidence of smoking going on around the house. People always are worried about that when they see something. And again, they're going to be smelling every corner, every room. They're going to be looking for ashes. And even if they don't find anything, it's still better to not have someone look and wonder. So that concludes our tour of staging. If you want to find out a little bit more theory behind how to stage a home and how to set it up without actually going and renting new furniture or going above and beyond and breaking your bank to get your home sold, check out my video on 3 simple ways to make your house worth more on the market in less than a week. With that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.